Yes, this is Dane DuPont, Administrator of Hawaii Tracker. I'd like to go in opposition a little bit of Bill 195. 99% of this bill I actually support. It's mostly reasonable. There's one specific line, though, I have issues with, and that's specifically 7-1-6D3. One sentence in a 7-page document that reads, quote, to the extent permitted by or under federal law, suspend electronic media transmission. Now, I know that this is you're just codifying a state law. You're like putting it into the county code, but the state made a mistake when they passed HRS 127A. Based on Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press special analysis on explicit press protections, the state of Hawaii is the only state in which such a law exists to suspend electronic media transmission. I would recommend the county not reinforce it by codifying into the Hawaii County Code. Once passed, something like this is magnitudes more difficult to revise. You guys can make the amendment to it now pretty easily. What will happen in the event this type of ordinance is used is, even if it is deemed unconstitutional, the impact of such an ordinance, it'll be used, the impacts will be felt. And then later it'll be like, oh yeah, we screwed up. We shouldn't be a test case for this type of thing. We've been through more disasters than any other county. We have the experience. We're the ones that can say, no, we know better than this. And we are better than this. It's not that we don't trust civil defense or the mayor's office. It's the future mayor's office, the future administrators and directors of civil defense that we don't know. And they might have less integrity and less devotion to the Constitution than some might think they would. Again, I, representing Hawaii Tracker, would recommend section 716D3, make an amendment that removes the language mirroring the state, or even goes further to distance us from potential code abuse that a change like this could present well after you all have left office. I appreciate your time. Thank you all. Aloha.
Good morning, council members commenting on Bill 195. Sounds like a lot of good work has gone into this bill. However, I'm also concerned about the suspending electronic media transmission. So that could affect not only internet, but also local news broadcasters and internet media. And after there is a tsunami or hurricane or some disaster that knocks out the normal information sources, these less formal sources may be a vital source of information. They're not always totally accurate, of course, but there's something. It would be helpful to know how other states and municipalities handle this suspension of electronic media issue. Thank you.
And I was able to have a conversation with our HIEMA, that's Hawaii Emergency Management Administrator, Luke Myers, about one particular section, that's 716, letter D, number 3, where it talks about, to the extent permitted by or under federal law, suspend electronic media transmission. And I just want to be super, super clear about what that exactly entails. It has to do with the hardened infrastructure. Sometimes systems are overloaded and they need to be restabilized. So it's a simple matter of restoring, restarting a system, rebooting so that communication can go out to community. This has nothing to do with suspending the communication that's going out by civil defense or the media or our community partners. We don't want that in a time of disaster. We want to make sure all the information is getting out to community so that we are preserving public health and safety. And so this really has to do with stabilizing our communication infrastructure system. So I hope that kind of assuages concerns from my colleagues as well as members of the community.
The only thing I wanted to touch upon was the same thing that Miley talked about, and it has to do with that suspension of electronic media transmission. You know, the problem here, and, you know, it raised the hackles of at least 2 people. And, you know, and it's because they weren't clear on what it meant. And I'm glad that Ashley explained clearly, you know, what is meant by this this provision. And I also spoke to our civil defense people during the break, and they said the same thing. The problem here, though, is that this media, the term media, is also used somewhere else in the enabling legislation, HRS 127A, and it talks about media access. And so, in order to, I know this language about to the extent permitted by or under federal law, suspend electronic media transmission. It comes straight from the HRS statute. But what I would suggest is to tweak it a bit. I think Ms. Kirkowitz's explanation was far more clear than what the state came up with. So maybe in that regard, talk about infrastructure so that there's no confusion. That's just my suggestion. Thank you.